Hello again, everyone. Today I have sort of a messy box here on the table. I will move this and show you the products individually that are in here. But this I wanted to show you because this is essentially my little caddy where I have my most used art materials, things that I would use pretty much consistently. And I have it all in this little caddy. Some things have been kind of added on the top because I use them more often, but I kind of wanted to show you the essentials that I have for doing various things. So this doesn't actually have any of the actual mediums like acrylic paint or watercolor or pastels or anything that I would actually use as paint. But this has all of the tools that I would use. And because I have been doing a lot of collage lately, there is a lot of glue products. There are a lot of glue products in here. But I wanted to kind of go through this with you and show you what's in my, I guess you could call it my EDC art caddy. And I just did some consolidation with the pens and pencils and things that I have in here. So I'll go through those. Actually, let me go through that first. So I have this guy, which you can't see, but you will in a minute. And then I have this guy, which I think I may have shown him on the channel before, although he's gotten dustier since I showed, probably more covered in dog fur. But this little case. So I'm going to go through these two first. Put that caddy down on the ground, and then we will cover what's in these two cases first. Let's go with the easier one, which is this little guy. This little case is just so adorable. I'm pretty sure I got this at Jet Pens. So, so it stands up like that, and when you open it, and I try not to make the pens go everywhere, you can push down, and then it essentially becomes a little pen caddy, and your pens are easy to get to. And then when you want to close it up, you push those back down, that goes back out, and then you can zip it up. So this is really kind of handy for having something that will stand up on its own. So I've had my most used drawing materials in here, and I'll just go through them. I'm not going to do any swatches of anything today. I'm just going to show you what I have. So this is an Otto graphic liner, and I think that everything in here might be permanent. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because I generally do like to draw and doodle and stuff with permanent ink. So this one is definitely permanent, the graphic liner. And this one has a really nice feel, so much so that I have two different sizes. I really like these. One is, okay, so it's at the end. So this is a 02 and this is an 005. So 02 is pretty small and 005 is even smaller. Obviously you can see that tip is super tiny. So I'm using these for detail work. And then I have my Micron PN in black, which is, PN stands for plastic nib. And this allows you to apply a little bit more pressure than a normal Micron nib. So that's nice because I do tend to have sort of a harder, I do tend to push down is what I'm trying to say. And this is the same one, just in blue black. So I have those. Oh, so this one is, it's kind of still up in the air as to whether this one is permanent. This is a Pilot V7. V7 meaning the size of the nib, and they also have a V5. So V7 is a little bit bigger. So this one is a little bit bigger than these. And this is a little bit of it's a roller ball. It has pure liquid ink in here. That's what they call it. But at the very least, this takes a little while to dry, so it's not as permanent as the other ones. Then I have this Uni Pin, waterproof and fade proof. Oh, I wonder why I have an 03. It's kind of a different size, but that's just what I happen to have in here, probably because I wanted to use it. And then I have a calligraphy brush pen with two sides, one side being smaller than the other one. This is by Zebra. And then I have this Pilot twin marker in brown, which is sort of a reddish brown. So there is a larger felt tip on this side, and then there is a smaller tip on this side. And these two are fairly new pens. And I like them so much, especially since they're super permanent, that I put them in my little everyday carry case. So here is a Uniball gel pen in gold. And this one looks like it's almost out. This is the 1mm. And then I have the same in white, which this all, no, I think there's still enough left in there. And this is also the 1mm tip. And then this one is a fairly new acquisition, but I have used it a bit. This is what company is this? Hybrid Gel. I don't know. It's a hybrid gel pen, but this is in like a copper color. So these are really good for doodling. And then I have this Molotow acrylic marker in gold in the smaller size. This is 1.5mm. So these are the ones that I use the most, and if I find that I'm using different pens or need different pens, because this is about all that fits in this guy, so I can swap in and out with different things. But this is a pretty comprehensive bunch of pens for drawing and doodling and stuff like that. So let me go ahead and close that back up, and then we zip the little bunny's head back on. It's so cute. All right, so then let's go to this pen, so or this case. So I have so many different cases with different configurations, and this one I just moved into because I had a bunch of pencils, random pens, and stuff in that caddy, and I wanted to kind of consolidate them into one container. So this is a Cubics pen case produced by M-Plan, it says. I'm pretty sure I got this at Jet Pens as well. So it has two compartments. One is just a deep compartment that holds random stuff, and then this one is has these two little things here, and I have an assortment of watercolor pencils over here. I'm not going to go into all of those. And then here I have a white Posca in a finer tip. Then I have a fine tipped silver pen. And then I have a really big brush pen, Higgins Black Magic. I have a, what is this called? This is a Stabilo All, the ever popular Stabilo All. And then I have a Blackwing pencil in black, and then I also have a pencil sharpener in there. So this is mostly pencil related stuff over here, although I think I may have some more in this area. So let's go ahead and get in here. So here I have oh, actually I do have some paint, I forgot. So I do have some littler palettes. I haven't been using these. I put them in here to kind of use them more if I, don't want to go to where the rest of my watercolors are. So I have a couple of smaller palettes in here just because they fit. This is dog fur covered, but it is tape that looks like vintage tape. I got this from Wow Studios online, and you can kind of see it looks like kind of yellowed vintage tape. I think it's really cool, and it kind of gives a cool feel to some collage work. Then I have, this is a rubber pickup. So this will work for masking fluid, which is actually in a larger bottle in here. Although I do also have this Pebeo drawing gum, which I have not tried yet because this is replacing a Molotow masking fluid pen that I had in here. I figured I would try a different brand because I'm not super keen on the Molotow one. The Molotow one is blue, which I think this one is too. But it's really hard to remove. So I'm hoping that this is a little easier to remove, but I haven't used it yet. And that can be removed with this pickup. I have a sharp bristled brush. You could use this for stencils or, rubbing things together. This is just a Martha Stewart set of these, and I put the smallest one in here. I have a little tape runner by Kikuyo. I have a couple of these little droppers, which come in really handy for a variety of things. This I plan to fill with glue, because this is my new favorite way to glue things, is in this little bottle and then with a little precise tip. And oop, it looks like I actually had 3 of those little dropper things. And okay, and then what else do I have in here? I have this jumbo correction pen, which you can actually use as a white pen. And these things are just, I didn't know where to put these actually. This is my gigantic Tintoretto watercolor brush. I haven't used it yet. It's still perfectly formed. I kind of put it in here because I didn't know where else to put it. And then I have this acrylic portable brush, which again, I have not used. It's still stiff with its hardener there. And then this I haven't really found a use for. This was kind of a cheap thing with a paintbrush on one side, and then it has a fountain pen on the other, which in theory seems like a cool thing, but oh no, this is just two. Oh, so there was another fountain pen that was separate. This one just actually has 2 brush tips. But this set came with a Fude fountain pen, I think, and it was super cheap, and I thought, well, why not? And then I don't know that I like it all that much, but I thought I would keep it in here. So let's put all of those back in there. But this holds quite a bit. And I guess that's kind of it for this one. But it holds all of these things pretty well. Although now I've probably ruined the configuration in here, and it'll be hard to close up. And what I also like about this particular bag, get this back up, oops, is that it does fit in this little compartment. So it still fits along with the rest of the stuff. Okay, so let me go ahead and talk about the rest of the things that I have in here. I'm just gonna put this off to the side. This is not actually apple butter. So this is actually a super old bottle of Liquitex Matte Medium. So this, I have a few different glues because I use different glues for different purposes. So Matte Medium I would use more for thinner papers, like tissue or something like that. So that's why I have this one. It doesn't hold as well or as fast as some of the other glues, but once it's dried, it actually does pretty well. This is actually, oh, and it's very dirty. This is actually acrylic water. So I have a separate thing for watercolor, but this is just for acrylics. Water in there. And then in here, this is actually almost empty. This is just regular Liquitex matte gel, which I go through like water. This is probably my main adhesive for most collage work I do and mixed media work I do. So I use this for a variety of things, and then it looks like I am gonna need to get a replacement soon on that one. I'm gonna cover these tools here in a minute after I've covered sort of the bottled things. And this I just sort of put on here because I was using it recently for some thinner papers, but it doesn't actually have a place in here. Same with this one, which is the Liquitex masking fluid. I actually quite like this masking fluid. It's really thin, really super thin actually. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to dry, and it seems to work pretty well. For those of you that don't know, masking fluid is a fluid that you put down to preserve white on your paper, or preserve the last layer of things on your paper. So you put this masking fluid either with a brush or palette knife or, you know, a little ruling pen. That ruling pens are actually made for this. So you can put it on the paper with that, let it dry, and then you can paint with other stuff over this. And then once that other layer dries on top, you can take away the masking fluid, and whatever you had underneath shows through. And this is actually a fairly new product from Liquitex, so I've been trying to play around with it, and I really like it. Masking fluid's not my favorite because it's kind of messy, but I do like the effect of it, which is why I have that. Okay, and then here I have gloves in a bottle, which is, it's, as it says, it's kind of like gloves in a bottle. It's like you would put this on instead of gloves. And I almost universally forget to put this on my hands until after I've started. But it's really good for, it basically creates a barrier over your skin so that the art materials that you're working with don't soak into your skin. I'm not going to say they don't 100% soak in. There is some, you know, you could wipe it off or wash it off. But it works pretty well if you're a little bit, if you don't want to wear gloves and you don't want to, first off, have a really hard time cleaning like acrylics or something off your hands. It does make it easier to clean your hands. Okay, and then I have a teeny tiny spray bottle, which again is almost empty. I generally use this one for watercolor, but you can use it for other things. Let's see what else we have in here. Okay, so I have a Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White, which is essentially a white gouache. So you could use this with watercolor. It's opaque, so you can do white over watercolor with this. You can also just use it as white for writing over other paints. It probably sticks best to matte surfaces as opposed to slick surfaces, but I've used it for a variety of things. This is actually a recent replacement. I couldn't find my other bottle, which I think is more half empty. And then I have some hand sanitizer. Why hand sanitizer, you may ask? So this is not just for sanitizing your hands, which you could use it for, of course. But this hand sanitizer works really well to remove acrylic paint on work because it has alcohol in it. Essentially, it's the alcohol in it that removes your paint. And what I probably should add to my kit is some Q-tips because that's generally what I use this with. But this works really, really well, and you don't need a lot at all. You can just basically like put a Q-tip here, squish it up to the top of the bottle, get your Q-tip wet, and then if you want to do like if you've got acrylic specifically, where you don't want acrylic, you can take it off with that, or you can go down to other layers, which is often what I do. And this is a fairly recent addition, which I have not tried much either. So this is Gum Arabic. And I kind of wanted to have this. So Gum Arabic is the binder that is in most watercolor paint. And what I kind of wanted to do is, so I have some loose pigment, but I don't have it in here. I kind of wanted to play around with just sort of making pigments that would work on paper just sort of on the fly. So I was thinking I could also mix charcoal with this and then add a little bit of water and then paint with that. It's a little bit more effective than painting with just the pigment because it won't stick to the page as well. But again, I haven't really played with this much, but that's the idea for having that in here. And then I have a little bottle of water that I use for watercolor stuff. This is like a travel bottle that I usually bring. And then these two go together. Put that back in there. This is a tiny little glue pen from Tombow, and these are glue stick replacements. These are really nice if you want to get into smaller areas with a glue stick. It works pretty well. I've been using this for sealing. So if I make envelopes, I'll seal the sealed ends with this, and it works pretty well. All right, and then I have, and this is almost empty too. You can tell the things I use. So this is a fine line applicator bottle. So I just bought it like this, and I put India ink in it. So you can draw, paint with it. It has a really fine tip. And sometimes when this might be a little dried out, so yeah, I'm not going to mess with it. I'm not going to mess with it. So basically it has a tiny little tip, much like the, what did I just get out that had that tip? Anyway, much like, oh, that little squeeze bottle that I showed you. It has a tip like that, and then it has a little rod that goes into the tip. And this one I think might have, because I left it in there with almost none in it left, and I think it might have dried out, and now that little thing might be stuck in there. So I may have to get another bottle. Okay, and then here's another glue. So this is glitter glue, and this has a fine tip applicator as well here with a pin in it so that it doesn't clog. This I've had some issues with clogging. I've actually had better luck with putting glue into that little bottle that I showed you at the beginning. Let's see, I can actually put that in there. And so in here I have some craft scissors. These are super nice. My hands had started hurting using regular scissors, and these are like a life changer. They're amazing. Let's see. Oh, looks like I did break off a little tiny piece there. I was wondering why it was having a hard time closing, but it still closes. I've used these to death, even though they don't look like it. They're really great scissors. And then I also have a ruler here, but this is actually a centering ruler. So if you put something here, that it shows you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 6 inches on either side of that mark. And then it does have a regular ruler on the bottom. This is inches. This is inches on the other side as well. And then you have centimeters there, which centimeters also come in very handy. And then I have a Tim Holtz tiny attacher, which I thought I would use a lot, and I actually have not used as much as I thought I would. It's really useful when I do use it, but I think I prefer gluing things a little better. Oh, and then I do have some little makeup sponges in here. I use those for stenciling and, just smearing paint sometimes, but mostly for stenciling. And then in here, I have some Scotch Magic tape, which is truly magic, especially for watercolor. I actually have not tried it with acrylic paint. But if you use this instead of masking tape to mask off your edges, it will rarely tear your paper, and it comes off really cleanly, and it creates a really nice clean line. And actually, I think I should be putting that in a different one here. There. Because I need to put the pens back in here. Okay, so last but not least, let's cover, let me put all these weird things back. Let's cover all this is the last bin here. I'll take the bin out of the way. And these are the tools that I have to use in here. There's a couple of new additions. These 3 are new additions that I haven't used very much in here. But pretty much everything, oh, and this one, but pretty much everything else I've used a lot. So let me get in a little closer here so that you can see that a little better. So these are fairly new Catalyst brushes that I got from Princeton. I have a longer, somewhat wide square brush. I have a smaller square brush, which I haven't even used yet. And then I haven't used this one either. This is a filbert. What is this? This is called a bright shader. And then this one is called a flat shader. I always forget, like one's a bright, one's a flat. I can't remember which one's usually long or short, but it seems like the longer one is the flat. I don't know if that's consistent. But one of the main reasons why I have not been using these is I am afraid to use them because they're such nice brushes. And I am so hard on my acrylic brushes, if you can't see, because these are all craft brushes for the most part. But I thought, hey, I want to get some nicer brushes, and then I haven't used them because I'm considering them too precious, but I need to get over that. And this is a fairly new addition. This is a fairly inexpensive Princeton mop brush with synthetic fibers. And this I'm intending to use with ink because I've been working a little bit more with acrylic ink, and I kind of wanted to have a big brush that wasn't a watercolor brush necessarily, or, well, this is a watercolor brush, but I wanted to have something dedicated to inks. So that's what I was going to do with this one. I'm not sure if this is the best place for it, but oh, this is another one that I view as too precious. This is a Rosemary and Company short filbert brush. Really, really nice and stiff. I think it would work great for acrylic, but again, I'm viewing it as too precious. So here, this I use to death. This is a Princeton. Oh, it's like one of the blades. Okay, so this is an 04 mini. So I use this for collaging. I use it for spreading paint. I use it for all kinds of things. Really great little tool. I haven't cleaned it off much, but this will actually, I think it'll come off after the fact. Yeah, you could peel it off. Yeah, that peels off. And I think you could also wash it off, but I haven't found it to be an issue, so I just leave it there. This guy is much springier. This actually came in a set from Faber-Castell. This is better for like mixing things on a little bit of a palette, because it has a much flimsier end. And then this is a, I think they call it a shaping, yeah, color shaper. So it's basically just a silicone tool. I've used this one, but not as much as the other ones. This is more firm though than either of these two. So this one's a little bit more flexible, and this one is pretty darn firm. And then I have this in here, which I use for like inking and distressing edges with distress inks and that sort of thing. You can use it for stenciling with inks. It's pretty much just exclusively for those distress inks. And then I have both a metal and a plastic palette knife. I use these all the time. This is actually a replacement palette knife from one that was super funky and was in here before. This one I don't use as much, although I've got some stuff stuck on it, but it's nice to have two different shapes and two different materials at the ready. This guy I haven't really used other than to maybe like get stuff out of the bottom of a bottle. That's essentially why I have this little tiny thing in here. I don't even remember where it came from. It might have also been a Faber-Castell set thing. And then I have, then I have this chopstick, which I use for stirring inks that are really, really stubborn, or something that's really stuck in a bottle or something like that. Or you can use it for mark making, but I generally use it just to like stir things in their jars. And then I have, and this one I actually have used, this acrylic brush. I've been trying to be careful with it, which is why it's not as dirty. But these are all the acrylic brushes that I use quite a bit, as you can see. These three are fairly similar. These are all square brushes, and a lot of times I use these for glue, so they're like super gluey, but I'll also use them for paint. But they're super stiff, and there's like all kinds of stuff still stuck in here, but I'm using them until they're no longer usable. And then I have this larger one, which I use for both paint and glue. I don't think I've used this one for glue. I think I've focused on those. And then I have this little craft grade. This is by Grace Art. It's a number 4. So I've been using that for detailing in acrylic. And then I have also been using this one, which is a Rosemary Pointed Round Series 301 in an 8. So I've been using this for inks. That's kind of why I wanted to get this, mostly this one for inks, because I wanted to have a smaller brush for inks and then a larger mop for inks. So I have been using this one for inks, which is probably why it's not as filthy as the others, because inks I tend to wash off right away and they tend to come out a little better. All right, well, that is it. So this is, you know, obviously mixed media is my thing. I don't have watercolor brushes in here because I have so many of those in a separate holder, and I generally pick those when I'm doing something in watercolor. If I were to add watercolor to something mixed media, I probably would use like this brush or something like that. But I do like to keep my media brushes separate from each other. Like I don't want to cross-pollinate acrylic with watercolor, especially with this funky thing. All right, well, that's all I had for you today. If you have any questions about any of this stuff in my kit, feel free to ask below and I'll answer when I can. Please give this a like if you enjoyed this video. I hope to see you next time. Please subscribe to keep track of future videos, if I didn't already say that. All right, well, that's all I had for you today. So take care. Thanks so much. Bye.